Joining us now, New York Times correspondent who covers the Justice Department, Glenn Thrush, staff writer for The Atlantic and MS Now political analyst Ashley Parker, and MS Now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin. Glenn, many of those details from the meeting from inside were your own reporting. Sounds like essentially an ambush of Jeanine Pirro at the White House, but she did come prepared for a fight in a way that we don't necessarily always see when it comes to allies going toe-to-toe with the president. You note that she sees her position as U.S. Attorney for D.C. as a capstone rather than a stepping stone. She doesn't fear being fired, that you're fired moment like some of the others in Trump's orbit. But is she still taking a risk by crossing Trump?
The first thing I want to say is, Ashley, I own that same tie.
You have very good taste in ties, Glenn.
Well, I won't
Glad we
wear
shored
it.
that up.
Right, I won't wear it. This isn't a formal invitation. No, look, I think we're watching a reality show here, and you know, in terms of both Pirro and Trump, it should be noted, are both veterans of the reality TV show circuit. So this was a confrontation that both of them understand, both in terms of from a theatrical point of view, but also from a relationship point of view, because they've known each other basically for 4 decades. I think Pirro, let's unpack that a little bit. I think Pirro generally, I am told by people in her orbit, actually feels hurt. She felt that Trump threw her under the bus. She feels that she's taken a lot of steps that,
and boy, has she been loyal over the years.
You got it. I mean, look, she went along with a prosecution of 6 Democrats, which fell apart. She went after the guy who threw the sandwich guy at the National Guardsman. But what was remarkable about this is this was a bridge too far. Our reporting showed that about 10 days after she did this very rushed indictment of Hearn, she got what was known as a Brady disclosure, thousands of documents associated with this case that her and her attorneys viewed, and she determined that she would never ever win this case in court. But I just want to flash over to Todd Blanche for a second. I just want people to understand he's a guy in a suit with a tie, right? Standing in front of a
ties are good, as we've established.
Ties are good. Nothing wrong with ties. But nothing that he is talking about is normal. This doesn't happen. This has only started to happen now. It is not normal for the President of the United States to get involved in a case involving a U.S. attorney. It is not normal for the President of the United States to summon a U.S. attorney to the White House to decide whether or not they're going to get fired or not. Barack Obama gave a famous speech to the U.S. attorneys saying that while he sought to influence the department, he would never interfere with their work. And also, one other thing that Todd Blanche said at this news conference today. He said that he does not personally intercede with U.S. attorneys. That is not the case. Right after he took over, Blanche and his deputy, Emile Beauvais, forced the Southern District of New York, where Blanche and Beauvais worked, to drop the case against Eric Adams. So none of what we're looking at here is normal. It might be normal in the Trump universe, but it is not normal in the universe of the Department of Justice.
I don't think any of us think it's normal that we're continuing to talk about the reflecting pool, but here we are. Glenn, let's talk a little bit about this case and Pirro's trouble that she's just gotten into with Trump, because it was a 20-page court filing, and as you put it, amounted to an indictment of sorts of Mr. Burgum, the contractor hired to repair the pool, Atlantic Industrial Coatings, and U.S. Park Police officials. So Pirro here essentially threw Burgum under the bus. You know, she felt like Trump now is throwing her under the bus. How is all of this going to sit with the president? Who's the last one in his ear?
Well, I just think it's super simple. Like Trump's pet theory of the case here is that this was done by vandals and not by a faulty contractor. It's a super embarrassing story for him. He doesn't want to confront the truth on this thing, which is amply documented. And by the way, Pirro's claim that she just learned that this was an issue with the contractor is contradicted by our reporting in Ashley's publication in the Washington Post. Everyone else has reported on this. So it's been out there that they've had trouble with the contractor. So I think the notion is that Trump, the thing that Pirro did is she contradicted Trump's position on this, and you just can't do that. And so Trump is going to the wall against somebody whom he previously considered to be a loyal friend and an ally.
Ashley, is it ultimately Doug Burgum who's the fall guy for this because of the no-bid contract and because of the doubling and tripling down on the vandalism theory?
So we don't know yet, but it's worth noting that Doug Burgum is doubling and tripling down on a theory that the president prefers because, as Glenn pointed out, it's less embarrassing for him. I was talking to someone this week who basically said Trump is so furious right now with Pirro that they don't think Trump will necessarily fire her tomorrow or the next day, but they said, and this is someone who has known Trump for a long time, it is unlikely that he will forget this. It will be something that is long simmering, and they think in a couple of months or after some time has passed, she may be out. You keep in mind the president, as angry as he gets with people, he often then doesn't like to get rid of them, because especially if the media is writing about it, because he believes it's giving the media a scalp. So a lot of people we've seen him push out, there's sort of an anger, some public stories, and then yes, exactly, it happens a bit more delayed when things have calmed down.
Lisa, I know you've read this entire filing. Jeanine Pirro knew she was not going to win this case. So was it just better for her to proactively let it go versus face the music on this?
I want to say that Jeanine Pirro's decision not to go forward with this case isn't just a matter of saving face. It's a matter of Department of Justice policy. There's a document called the Principles of Federal Prosecution, and they require that before a prosecutor brings a case, they have to internally believe it's more likely than not that an unbiased finder of fact, meaning a jury of 12 of the person's peers, will find beyond a reasonable doubt that that person is guilty of the crime. The crime here that David Hearn was accused of not only includes having to prove that the person willfully did some damage, but that the damage here was more than $1,000 worth and could not be attributed to another cause. And so I want to be really clear. This is not just a face-saving mechanism for Jeanine Pirro. This is somebody looking at the rules and saying, hey, wait a second. If I don't do this, I or others under my supervision could face potential discipline or at least excoriation by the bar, which is another set of her peers, right?
Yes, and you heard at the top there that Hearn, his camp, his lawyers are very concerned that he could be prosecuted for this again, targeted. Yep. He faced, I believe it was up to a decade in prison if he had been convicted on this. They're asking for the judge to dismiss this with prejudice, meaning that he would never face these charges again. How likely is that?
I think it's likely that the judge here is going to at least subject the government's motion to dismiss without prejudice to a pretty rigorous review. And in that way, Erielle, it reminds me of the Eric Adams case. I mean, let's harken back to the very beginning of this administration, where President Trump and other people working under his supervision wanted to get rid of the Southern District of New York's indictment of Eric Adams. And there, too, they went before a judge and said, we'd like to dismiss this without prejudice. The judge said, essentially, my hands are tied. Where the government no longer wants to prosecute people, I can't force them to, but at the very least, I'm going to dismiss this case with prejudice, not without. It's unfair for them to sort of hold this over his head for an unlimited period of time and to sort of be able to revive it on the basis of evidence that they're not willing to come forward with now.
I want to get to this other case in the saga of the reflecting pool that many of us had just learned about today. Sophie Dennison-Gibby, a veterinarian who describes herself as, quote, rather obsessed with picking up litter. This is real. She visited the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool back in June. She says that she noticed what appeared to be some trash floating in it, and she deigned to pick it up. Dared, I should say, to pick it up. That's when she says that U.S. Marshals then said, well, I really wish you hadn't done that. Now I'm going to arrest you. Yes, I'll read that again. Well, I wish you hadn't done that. Now I'm going to arrest you. And then she said what unfolded after that was terrifying. I mean, she was arrested, taken to a place she didn't know where she was going to go. Now those charges against her, the 3 defendants in similar situations, have all been dropped. Do they have legal recourse for the upending of their sense of sanity and life at this point? I mean, that is terrifying.
They very well might. There's a statute called the Federal Tort Claims Act. We've been talking about it a lot lately because there are some people who believe it could be used to provide recourse to some of the January 6 defendants. But basically what it says is, for the most part, you can't sue the federal government for doing wrong things against you, like assault or malicious prosecution. But there's an exemption there, where an investigative or law enforcement officer employed by the federal government is responsible for that. You can sue for the damages that they did to you. Here, Ms. Dennison-Gibby could say they either negligently